let's hide that. Whoopsie. Let's bring this down here. And now we're ready. All right, I'm a little late getting these to you, so just about that. I got to 4 images here that I am going to critique and share my thoughts with you. Look for a link below this video to submit for the next critique, which will be part of the weekly live show this Friday at its normal time. All right, first up we have this shot from Roger, Pebble Beach at Apri. And I love a lot of things about this image. I love these smooth, wet rocks, the curve leading lines off to the colorful hills in the distance, or bluffs if we want to call them that. A little glimpse of the seashore itself and the water. All very nice. A couple of things that jump out at me, though, that I think could strengthen this image. And they're fairly picky, because I think it's a good image. One is we've got all these nice, soft, round rocks. They're all like that, except for this dude right here. I actually caught my eye as a thumbnail. This is kind of a square, angular, rough rock, and it doesn't fit all of the rest of them here. I might have moved it out of the shot, or put up a round rock or two right in front of it, just kind of break up that very angular, that's the word I'm looking for, example. Another thing, 10 millimeters f5.6. That is so close to what I think is a perfect aperture for this. I would have gone maybe 6.3, even 7.1, just to have a tiny bit more depth of field. Even this rock right here is starting to get soft. We went to 2:1. We don't need to go that far. And I would love to have just a little bit more sharpness in these smooth rocks. So a little bit more in focus, just a little. Other than that, I think it's really nice. One of the things that I like, maybe you could come up a tiny bit higher and given this a little bit of breathing room up here to help frame, use that hill in the distance to help kind of frame this a little bit more. And if you wanted to, this dark object, see, objects of brighter or darker than the surrounding can really kind of grab the viewer's eye. And because this goes right off the screen, let's see what we can do with it if we do a quick fix here in Lightroom. This would be a great spot to go over to Photoshop, as those videos I've produced have shown. That's a quick fix. Photoshop would do better, but I think that also strengthens the image as well. There's still some issues here. This really bothers me. Sorry, I can't kind of. Most of the time I'm okay with a half-assed job, but a lot of the times I just can't let it go. So that little bit of darkness there. So that's better. Now, if you weren't looking for that, there's also these two lumps. No, these two lumps right here and here kind of show repetition, so I'd be careful to remove those as well. One other thing, let's try this real quick. I'm going to get the gradient tool and drag up from the bottom. And right now it's set on whites. It brightens these rocks a little bit, and I'm going to bring the clarity up a little bit too. I want them to be even just a little bit punchier. There we go. Really want to emphasize that fall off. And as I said, I would love, when I say fall off, I'm talking about the out of focus. I would love that to just be pushed back a little bit. But overall, I think this is a nice image. And, now that I'm looking up here, let's try one gradient up here. Can we get a little bit more detail out of the sky? Let's see what we can get out of that sky up there. Let's bring exposures down a little bit and the highlights down. And looking at our histogram, I see that we're right up against the side there. So it does look like I've clipped some in the rocks, but can we bring down some of that sky? Why do I see not very much happening up there? There we go, a little bit more. Okay, the sky's not terribly interesting. And there's some kind of weird colors going on up there as well. Sometimes you can just bring the saturation down, but that ends up being more distracting than anything, and I think the original sky was fine. All right, nice shot, Roger. I hope that feedback helps. Heather. Now, I'm pretty sure, Heather, I saw this on your Instagram, and it took me a minute. At first glance, I thought this was a cool field of kind of warm grass or wheat or something, and then, on closer inspection, it looks a little funny, and you had mentioned that it's a macro of moss. Really, really cool. This is a neat shot. I think this shot would look really cool on a wall somewhere. Actually, Rogers, yours would too. But this has a very different, soft, kind of nice feel to it. It's just, I like it a lot. I don't think I have a lot to add. This, was that the term of fading of color, ombre? This kind of ombre from top to bottom, or bottom to top is the direction I'm gesturing right now. It's cool. It's cool. Things that I would try. First, let's see. Let's close the gradient tool for a second. And we are working on a G&G. If we add a little bit of clarity, I would like a few of these to pop just a little bit more. And this is getting picky, but it looks like this guy right here is the most in focus. You know, it's off to the side there a little bit. These two here might have been a little bit better to focus on. Now, I know you're working at very, very shallow depths of field here, but just something to think about when taking multiple shots. But if we bring our clarity up just a little bit, well, let's go the other way for a second and see what happens. It gets really soft and dreamy. I think you can make an argument for going either way. I'm going to leave it just a little bit higher and get a brush and brush on just a tiny bit. Where am I looking for it? Clarity. 13, my flow. Let's put it up a little bit more so I don't have to paint a ton. And let's just paint on these guys just a little bit. I would like those guys to stand out a little bit more. I'm realizing these things look pretty phallic. Isn't that weird? Yeah, little moss wieners. That's what we got right here. But I want them to be sharp. So it's just a couple of them. I want them to stand out a little bit more. Other than that, I think it's pretty nice. Let's see what happens if we add a little bit of vignette. So I'm coming down to the effects, and I'm going to drop and add in a little vignette to see if we can get a little bit of focusing in towards the center. And see, that's what I'm talking about, where I'd rather this guy, he's a little bit more towards the center. That one's pretty in focus too, isn't it? Because that's where you want the eye to be drawn. When you got more in focus off on the left, it's bringing your viewer out. I don't think I love what the vignette's doing here. Definitely not that much, but I was just kind of overdoing it to see. It feels like it's just getting a little muddy in the corners, and I don't like that. Double click to reset that. So I'm going to say it's good as is. Just watch your points of focus. Kate, it's your first shot. You know, I looked at all these briefly before I started talking to you, and you know, I kept trying to find things wrong with this image to help and to give you some ideas for strengthening it. And it's not a perfect image, but I really like it. A couple of things that catch my eye that the railing ends right here. And that throws me a little bit. But then I made the argument to myself, well, it tells a little bit more of the story. We're in the second row or whatever row we're in, and you pass by this banister. So, you know, I'm okay with that, but it should have a little bit more breathing room. That's very close to the edge. That also, you've got this dark kind of, I don't call it a window, alcove, something in the theater. That catches the eye as well. So having a little bit more room for that, so that it wasn't such cut off and mysterious in not a good way, that could strengthen the image as well. And you know what? It wasn't until I kind of followed this over here and got lost and then ended up down here that I noticed that there's a pretty nasty exit sign. But the focus there is you know, it's out of focus. So it's not a big deal, but that was something maybe you could have hidden if you had come down a little bit. So this is the thing, as I bring the camera up to my eye, in a lot of situations, I look, what's grabbing my eye? What's there? And you've got this great, nice kind of wrought iron detail here. The colors centered against the color of the curtain. Love that. That's great. But as your eye starts to wander, it's caught by some things, like the exit sign, like the dark here, like these bright lights over here. But they're part of the story. They fit. They feel good. That's okay. But I will shift a little bit left or right. Can I hide something that's distracting behind something else by shifting to the left or the right, or up or down? Can I strengthen my image? Can I line things nicely? So, I mean, in some ways, this feels kind of like a haphazard shot that really works. In other ways, I'm not sure how thoughtful it was, because another thing we could think about doing is being a little more thoughtful and centering this, you know, detail in the curtains. It's a little off center, but I kind of like that. So let's say it was thoughtful, Kate. good job. But in the future, you could take a few more shots and see what does it look like if it's centered more carefully on that curtain in the background. Use items in the frame to center it. Editing wise, it looks like you bumped up the exposure, you bumped up the shadows a little bit. That all looks good. It feels a tiny bit crooked to me as well. What if we do this? Just a little bit. Now we're even closer to the edge, and the background feels a little tweaky as well. Let's go back here. Let's split the difference somewhere around there. Really nice colors, nice exposure. I think you've done a nice job here. Let's bring the clarity up a little bit. And yeah, let's bring the highlights down a tiny bit. Didn't really do anything. The highlights here are very bright, those bits there and there. All right, let's move on to the next one. Kate, you got another one here. This is a lighthouse under a bridge. It's one of those things you wonder, do they really need a lighthouse under the bridge? Because you see, no, I guess the lighthouse was probably there first. Leading lines up to the nice red lighthouse. I like it. I really wish it wasn't intersecting the bridge. This bridge could serve, we have just enough to really kind of show us a little bit more, but this bridge could so nicely serve as a framing point, and instead with the intersection, it just kind of weakens that. So I would have loved to see you take, am I thinking right? If you step back a few feet, it actually might have been more than a few feet, maybe that wasn't even possible in this point, but if you could have broken this intersection here and had the lighthouse end up right around here with a little bit of blue sky gap between it, I think that could have done a really nice job. The other thing, this kind of irregular rock. I repeat myself a lot on these critiques. We've got all of this that has some similarities to it, smooth, and then boom, dark, shadowy rock. I don't know if we can take that guy out now. Oh, you did some straightening already. Okay. If we take that guy out now, I think we end up being a little too close and losing a little bit too much of our bridge. Let's see. That's not bad. Let me come in a little bit. Rule of thirds. I'd like you had it pretty much there. I don't want to center that lighthouse too much. Yeah, I like that. The lighthouse a little bright. Let's see if we bring our overall exposure down just a few touches. And Roy has a fantastic article on PhotoRec TV about capturing reds. This isn't quite a true red. It almost is a kind of a pinkish lighthouse. Does it feel a little pinkish to you? I'm going to put this gradient over it. See if we can bring those highlights down a bit more and see what happens. Oops, invert. So there. See that? I've just kind of mellowed that harsher light out. I could have brushed it on as well, but I'm lazy, and throwing a gradient on there just seems to work quite nicely a lot of the time. I could shift the tint to the right a little bit and give it a little bit more red, and you could bring that saturation up a little bit too if you wanted to. So let's go back and look at before, after, before, after. Notice you can see a little bit of that gradient shifting over there. We could bring it in. You could also feather it a little bit more. And that would actually work really nicely in that case, because this would be the brightest spot. The sun is obviously directly hitting it from the left over there. I think that looks pretty good. Hey folks, thanks so much for submitting. Thanks so much for your support. I hope you found this quick critique helpful. And as I said, a link below this video will lead you to the location to drop images in for the next one, or watch in the PhotoRec TV Facebook group for a call out for submitting images for this Friday's show. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.